And with every emergency update that I get from Gaza, we've been not only getting horrifying facts or stats of all the people dying, but we've also been receiving good news about how the aid is getting there. Islamic Relief in Palestine has been working in the Gaza Strip since 1998 with a full-time office of 85 staff. 2008 emergency work. We have a $10 million appeal to help provide food, and this was actually before all of this happened. Currently, we're benefiting over 500,000 people. Phase 1, there are 150,000 people in all of these areas of Gaza and Palestine, Eastern Rafah, Eastern Khan Yunis, the middle region, Beit Lahia and Beit Hanun. Please forgive my pronunciation. And these people receive a distribution of infant milk, formula, medicine, shelter kits, despite the bombing going on, despite the disaster, despite the fact that the staff are moving targets on the ground, they still work. And luckily, none of the staff have been killed. The situation is absolutely disastrous, as the UN said. On the first day of crisis, the bloodiest in over 40 years, we were able to get in 9 trucks of food, and even though there's a severe shortage of food, our staff continue to work hard. We responded 6 hours after the crisis. Your aid. The office and staff are on the ground right now, procuring medical supplies, food, and other medical needs, and other needed items. And although sometimes the suppliers are not paid right away, the suppliers from the West Bank, Egypt, and other parts of the world are working with them, and we ensure we pay them right after. Sometimes when there's a crisis, you can't really estimate how much is required. We even have ships coming in from Panama to deliver blankets. Islamic Relief works with the UN World Health Organization and the Ministry of Health in Palestine to get the aid in. We have stats of where your money is going, of what is being produced, and what is being delivered. As you know, it's the worst humanitarian crisis in 30 years. The situation is worsening. My stats are old right now. We have like a card saying 240 have died. Then we had to change it the next day at the printers, 1,000. We're going to have to keep changing it until we get your help. And we get, as Norman Finkelstein mentioned and made us aware of, the government involved at a more, actually the government isn't involved, is it?
Shame.
And basically you are their hope. They sent me a text right from Gaza. We're their international brother and sister. We are their hope. And I'm going to call Elias up as our volunteers. Stand up and please kindly let them go through your aisle so you can empty out your pockets of a Starbucks coffee amount or even more, whatever you have in your pocket. Because right now we can go home to a warm house, but these displaced Palestinians cannot. Thank you, Elias. I want to thank UTMSU. I want to thank the organizers. And I want to thank you for this event. And once again, contact us at Islamic Relief Canada at any time. And most of all, I want to thank the Palestinians for hanging on there with their hope and for texting us and for somehow trying to keep in touch with us. The last and final statement, I told the Palestine House this in an event on Sunday. Their phones, the Palestine telephone company, there's mentioned that their phones will be cut. Their cell phones, their internet, everything will be cut. We have to get in as much aid as possible before our brothers and sisters are isolated. Thank you.
Thank you, Shaila and Elias. If everybody could get back to their seats or line up at the microphones if you have a question. Please write your question on a piece of paper and I'll come over and collect it.
Thank you, Dr. Finkelstein, for coming to our city and sharing your views. I tremendously benefited from what you were saying. Earlier this week, you were on AM 640 on the John Oakley Show, and when you were asked, do you support Gaza, you said you don't support any state or any group, you only support principles. So going with this logic, if you could do a little role playing for us, if you were an advisor or someone who could advise Hamas on principle, what would you advise them to do? one thing that's been very clear from what you've said today is every time there's a legitimate resistance group or legitimate government like Hamas is, Israel baits them in, has a ceasefire, baits them in, and then when they fall for the bait, they get attacked. So my question is, do they fall for the bait, or do they just wait?
I would have many things to say about what I think is a workable strategy and what I think are unworkable strategies. I'm not trying to evade the question. I just don't think it's appropriate now to be debating those questions. Right now, Gaza is under attack, and we all have a responsibility to point the finger at those who are perpetrating the attack, and we all have a responsibility for identifying what's the motives behind the attack and how the conflict can be resolved. On the strictly tactical question of what Hamas should or shouldn't do, first of all, I'm reluctant to put myself in their shoes. I'm here and not there. And secondly, as I said a moment ago, I just don't think now is the time to be debating that. Maybe I'm mistaken on that point, but that's how I feel about it. I would, however, add on a bigger question, Hamas did what was required of it, it seems to me, to terminate the conflict. It's expressed its willingness to abide by the opinion of the international community, to abide by the opinion of the representative bodies in the international community on the terms for resolving the conflict. And I don't see that Hamas is under any responsibility to go beyond those terms, and we should be clear, if the conflict continues for even another hour, it's because of Israel backed by the United States and their refusal to abide by the internationally recognized terms for ending the conflict.
I just would like to know, in your opinion, which I really respect, what you think after, well, the new president, Barack Obama, is going to run in January 20th, what you feel his plans are for the Middle East.
As far as one can tell from now, he's brought into his administration pretty much the same people who ran the show during the Clinton administration. It seems like Dennis Ross will be back, Mark Indike will be back, and the rest of that crowd. And there's no reason to suppose, there's no rational grounds for assuming that the Barack Obama administration will differ in any substantial form from the administrations that preceded his own. So I see no grounds for optimism.